Hey guys. Part 2 of What If Naruto Was Born in Uzumaki Before It Was Destroyed. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 6, The Broken. Minato Namikaze numbly sat on one of the large trees situated inside the Forest of Death. Secluded from the rest of the world, the blonde Jounin's eyes were fixed on the picture of a young masked boy. There was a small cross beneath that picture in the bingo book, a sign that Konoha had recently updated. The Shadow. He always liked that nickname his son had earned for himself over the years. Even though Naruto was listed as a mere chunin in the bingo book, there was a caution at the bottom regarding the boy's ability to surprise and turn tables. He had always been proud of this trait which his son had inherited from him. Despite all evidence pointing towards the demise of Naruto, the father knew that was no the case. Some might say that it was Minato's delusion as a way of coping with grief. And he would have believed that too, if not for the last conversation he had with the boy. Over the years since their separation, Minato had tried to stay in touch with his son through letters since he was not allowed to visit Yuzu. There was only one reply from Naruto over the years, the letter Minato was holding in his other hand, which had a few words written on it. Words that haunted the Namikaze every day. Even when I was in a crowd, I was always alone. Those words were sharper than any blade, more painful than any wound. He could only imagine the type of life his son had lived that made him utter such heartbreaking words. And yet the eyes that stared at him from the photograph of the bingo book screamed of ambition. A large one at that. He still remembered that single one-on-one conversation he had with his boy. Flashback, a few months ago. Minato patiently observed the surprise visible on his young son's face. Standing in one of the marshes surrounding Yuzu, the guard Chunin was extremely stunned to see a Konoha Jounin entering their territory in such a sneaky manner. Much less his own father. With speed unforeseen, Minato had easily knocked out the two Chunin border patrol guards who were with Naruto and now stood before the boy. "What are you doing here, Jounin?" asked Naruto icily. His tanto pointed towards the blonde ninja. Minato grimaced. Those cold words hurt a lot, but deep down he knew he deserved them. So, instead he decided to remain patient. "Do you know who I am?" asked Minato, a hopeful expression visible in his eyes. "My biological creator had said that you were the donor that helped facilitate my existence." "Nothing more, nothing less," replied Naruto, making his father flinch considerably. The way Naruto had said those words had left very little to imagination as to what the boy felt in his heart. Despite expecting such a response while coming here, it still hurt Minato to hear them regardless. "I suppose I earned that remark," said Minato apologetically, and gave a sad smile to his red-haired son. Naruto's startling blue-colored eyes shined with hostility, yet he did the unthinkable when he lowered his tanto and sighed. "I give you this one chance to walk away, if only for the unfortunate fact that I exist because of you," said Naruto calmly, making Minato raise one of his eyebrows. "You think you can defeat me?" asked the father curiously, and was surprised to see the boy shake his head. "It would be foolish to assume so. However, that doesn't mean that I won't offer a valiant fight. I am a ninja of Yuzu and you are illegally setting foot in my nation. It is my duty to stop you, no matter what relation we unfortunately share," explained Naruto logically, his voice bitter. Minato smiled. "It seems you are wise than most people your age. Rest assured, I am not here to harm your nation." "I came here to see you," said Minato honestly, making the boy frown. "There was no need for such a farce," replied Naruto flatly. Minato lowered his head in guilt. "You're my son, Naruto," said Minato softly, and saw the boy's fists clench tightly as he fought hard to control his emotions. Yet Minato sensed the temperature going cold and killing intent started spreading. "Just don't. It has taken me years to understand and accept the reality of my life. I don't hold you guilty for what you did. Just like I am a ninja of my village, you are a ninja of your village. Soldiers are meant to serve nation first, then society, then their comrades, and if it is possible then themselves in the end," stated Naruto with conviction. Minato could not help but stare at his son with pride in his eyes. "You've become an admirable ninja, Naruto," praised Minato. Despite the bitter feelings, those words made the boy pause. For a few moments a strange look arrived in Naruto's eyes, and that was all Minato needed to see. It helped lift a great burden from the father's heart. His son didn't hate him, and was simply indifferent towards his father. Minato could try to live with that. "I came here to congratulate you for passing the Chunin exams and acing them as well. You are a Chunin now. I know I have no right to even speak with you, yet I wanted to wish you luck in your life," said Minato seriously. "You don't have excuse, Naruto," but the father raised his hand. Minato bent down and placed a scroll on the ground and saw Naruto becoming alert. Inwardly, he was happy to see that his son had kept his guard up even now. It was a trait of a fine shinobi. "I know I have failed you, Naruto. And there is nothing I can say or do that can make up for it, but if you're ever in trouble, open this scroll," instructed Minato. "And why would I do that?" asked Naruto skeptically, and saw a sad smile arriving on the father's face. "I am your father, Naruto. Despite everything, I love you with everything in my heart." The iciness and contempt in Naruto's eyes wavered and the boy quickly closed those startling blue orbs. He pointed his tanto in the opposite direction, away from Yuzu. "You should go," whispered Naruto. Minato nodded. With a heavy heart he started walking. Even in Yuzu nobody except for the Uzukage knew that Minato was the boy's father. Kushina had also kept this fact a much guarded secret even in Konoha. Then a question arose in his heart that made the tall blonde stop, and look back towards his son who was walking back towards his unconscious comrades. "Why do you fight, Naruto?" asked Minato curiously. The boy stopped. With his back turned towards his father, the young redhead glanced up towards the sky full of stars and the bright shining moon. "To gain the strength to freely accomplish my dreams. One could also say that it's the power not to take orders from people whom I despise or don't agree with, to be the master of my own life." Minato was left speechless by those words. It was his turn to stare at his son in surprise. Nobody knew it, but those words had changed Minato Namake's completely. They gave birth to his dream. The reason he couldn't keep custody of his own son, the reason he failed in saving Kushina from such a pain was because of the fact that he had been helpless and weak as a mere chunin all those years ago. Compared to the Kages who made the decisions, Minato had been powerless. And on that day, Minato Namakes had made a pledge to himself and the world. "Naruto, I don't know where you are right now. But one day, I'll win the entire universe for you." With those determined words, the Namakes got back on his feet and started walking away. A world war had started, and he would make sure Konoha emerged as the true victor, which would ultimately pave the way for accomplishment of his dreams. Though if there was one thing that Minato knew for sure was the fact that he would meet his son one day again. Kushina had been fondly caressing the photograph of her young son in her soft hands. The Uzukage had recently sent her a picture of Naruto dressed in his Chunin uniform, a tanto fixed on his back and his face covered by a face mask. He looked so handsome. Yet at the same time, she didn't miss the cold, hollow eyes that stared at her from the picture. It were the eyes of someone who had never experienced love, and that fact too was forgotten with the sands of time. What she was looking at now was a determined and devoted assassin, whose only reason for existence was to serve Yuzu. Live for the village, die for the village. Her son had sworn that oath when he took up that uniform. Such path of violence and darkness was not something she wished for him, and yet it had happened. It was not as if she had tried to break away from him. It was the complete opposite. She had sent so many letters, pictures of her and Minato, and so many more presents on his birthday. And she only received silence in return. All these years right up to. She had never cursed her destiny as a Jinchuriki so much as today, to lose the most precious thing in her miserable existence. Naruto had been the one good thing that happened to her, and she threw him away. She could have fought harder, made more efforts to. If only she had done that, her son would have been alive today. Due to her and Minato's mistakes, Naruto lived a lonely life devoid of a family. And in the end, he died alone. She could still remember that dark night when a squad of Umbu forcefully took her child away from her. The Hokage and the Uzukage had witnessed the exchange with a complete professional look in their eyes. A teenage Minato had also been standing beside Jiraiya. Unlike Kushina, he was not crying, and instead had his eyes closed. His fists had been clenched so tightly, and he never looked at her despite her pleas for help. The last memory of that dark night that she remembered was Naruto's crying voice, and then something hit her followed by darkness. Her only reason to exist now was to destroy the ones who killed her only son. She would use every ounce of her power and hatred to inflict carnage upon the 3 cowardly villages who had destroyed her clan, her people, her village, and her son. The wooden walls cracked due to the killing intent she had been radiating, and it would have escalated further if not for the series of rapid knocks on her door. Snarling, she got up and started walking towards the door. Hadn't she told those annoying Umbu that unless there was a mission she was not to be disturbed? I told you to leave me, Aloe. Kushina couldn't complete her words as she saw the person standing at her doorstep with a wide, innocent smile on his face. You! Naruto stood on top of one of the large sand dunes. Currently lying steadily in the sand, he simply observed the large structure before him. Akino was beside him, and the two of them were waiting for the bright moon in the sky to hide for a while. And that would be the moment they attacked. Akino had been silent all the time, only talking when Naruto responded. It had been 3 days since their attacks in Fire Nation, and the flames of war would now envelop 2 great nations tonight. Why is this world so twisted, Akino? She would have missed his question if she was not so alert right now. Even then, those words coming from Naruto of all people surprised her. Akino turned towards him, and saw a vulnerable look in his eyes. I wonder if my actions will change anything in this world. Or will they be just as meaningless as my own existence? Asked Naruto. Naruto. I want to achieve peace through force. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I want to believe that what I am doing today will help in making people understand each other, said Naruto, his voice soft and expression numb. I think people can only understand things that they've actually experienced, suggested Akino, and saw him smile a little. I understood what loneliness meant, and now I know what happiness and sadness means. What revenge means, what hatred means, but I don't know peace, Akino confessed Naruto, making her smile ruefully. Neither does the world know, suggested Akino, giving him an encouraging smile. Then I want to learn what peace is and teach it to the world as well. That's why even if the world rejects me, I'll keep on fighting, promised Naruto. Naruto blinked when Akino gently entwined her hand with his. He turned towards her and saw a strange light burning in her eyes. He froze when she looked back at him. Then let's fight together, to learn peace. Both of them shared firm nods. Akino was startled when Naruto pulled her towards him and wrapped her in his arms. She placed her hands on his back. I'm never letting you go again. No words could describe how happy and satisfied she felt on hearing him say that. She knew the terror she had experienced when she was captured by those Konoha scum, and could only try to imagine what Naruto felt. He was the leader of their group of survivors, and he may not admit that out loud, but deep down he considered himself responsible for all those deaths. People often mistook him as the most strongest person in their team. While as a shinobi he was, but as a human he was the weakest of the trio. For Naruto, Nagato and Akino had been the closest thing he had to a family. You aren't getting rid of me that easily, Naruto, teased Akino, as he gently broke the hug. He stood back on his feet and calmly observed the large Suna Dam in front of them. The modern invention was one of Suna's most crucial assets that was the lifeline of nearly 20% of its population. And Naruto was aware of the consequences of a direct attack on this place. For a few seconds, his grip on his tanto wavered as he tried to imagine the kind of suffering he would be inflicting on this world. Reforms, no matter how great or small, are never painless or without sacrifices. Akino saw his trembling stop as he took a deep breath. Naruto's blue eyes glanced at the now darkened sky. You guys may be satisfied with this world, I'm not. With those determined words, Naruto Uzumaki, dressed in the uniform of Konoha Umbu, now placed a bird mask on his face. Sharing one last glance with his fellow partner, he charged towards the dam. Akino quickly performed a set of hand seals and bit her thumb, followed by slamming her right hand on the sand. Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning technique. The silver-haired girl soared quickly into the dark sky as the vulture carried her higher and higher. The large creature easily camouflaged itself in the dark skies as Akino pointed her hand forward. Altris, we shall support him. Sync with me, commanded Akino, and joined her hands together. The large predatory bird cawed in response, signifying its acceptance of the order. Akino started channeling her chakra into the aerial summon as the bird quickly started flapping its wings wildly. On the ground, a pair of Suna Chunin guarding the outskirts of the dam saw a large sandstorm brewing at a distance. Tell the others to take shelter, instructed the senior Chunin. Will do. Man, what a mess. I'll also inform the engineers to take protective measures to safeguard the water, suggested the other Chunin. You do that. Inform the guards not to mess around in this storm, they can be deadly. Roger. As soon as the younger Chunin went off to carry his orders, the senior Chunin turned back only to see a human figure emerge from the shadows. A permanent horrified expression was etched in the Chunin's eyes as his head was severed off before he could scream a warning. Naruto quickly took cover behind the walls of the dam, as the blood of the now dead Chunin started drenching the sand. What most people didn't know was the fact that he had been one of the candidates selected to be a part of Yuzu's first Umbu force. Only the Uzukage and his few aides knew this fact apart from the shinobi who were chosen for this unit. Unfortunately, their training was never fully completed and the village was destroyed. He could only imagine how different things could have been if Yuzu had developed an Umbu force just months before its last moments. It was one of their grave errors. Regardless of those mistakes, it didn't change the fact that Naruto had the skills and intelligence to perform assassination and infiltration missions. Talents he would be using tonight. He raised 2 of his fingers and 4 shadow clones of him appeared beside him. All of them having the same cold, calculated look in their eyes. The enemy is taking shelter from the sandstorm Akino is creating. But she can't maintain it for long, we only have a 5-minute window to execute our mission, instructed the real Naruto. Should we go in and eliminate the enemy forces? They'll be easy to kill now that they are hiding in shelters, suggested one clone. That would take too much time, warned another clone. The longer we take, the more Akino's chakra will get used up. We must keep her in mind as well, informed another clone. If we attract too much attention, then the Suna forces will follow us. And we'll simply get trapped between theirs and approaching Konoha forces, warned the last clone. Before the clones could further continue their discussion, their original creator took out 4 scrolls from his pouch and handed one to each of them. Spread out in all directions, place them across these points, informed Naruto, and pointed the directed points on the map. Now! The clones quickly saluted and started stealthily running in different directions to accomplish their objectives. Naruto placed his own scroll near one of the dam's giant walls. He then placed his finger on the communication device in his ear. Akino, how are you doing? Asked Naruto worriedly. It is taking more chakra than I expected, but I can go on, insisted Akino, making her friend grimace. Understood. As soon as he cut off the link, he cautiously looked around for any signs of Suna forces. He saw the sandstorm which Akino was generating with her summon's help was closing towards the dam slowly and slowly. Since this was an actual event rather than an illusion, it had been enough to convince the Suna forces that they were not under attack and had calmly taken shelter. The sand village had been on edge these past few days since Konoha was building up massive armed battalions near their borders. However, since they were allies, no official battle had been initiated by Sand Village. With this, all bets would be off the table. War will be inevitable, thought Naruto grimly. He didn't like what he was doing, and deep down some part of his heart knew this was wrong. Yet he couldn't stop. He refused to be a part of a stagnant world where humanity was out of control. War could never be eradicated, that much was certain. What he could do was limit its occurrences and the need for it. Ninjas were mercenaries who fought for money, resources, and for their own desires. Except for a selected few, most of the ninja were dishonorable and worse than scum. It was his lifelong mission to eliminate such warmongering thugs and bring forth nations, military, and citizens that were more responsible, compassionate, and understanding towards each other. It was easier said than done, but he knew that it was not impossible. And if it could be done, then he was willing to bear every sin for that dream of peace. All charges set. The voice of his clones over the communication channel felt like the hammer of the gods descending from the heavens. It was easy to slaughter people when you're out of control, but extremely difficult when a person is completely in control of himself. Nobody knew this fact better than Naruto. Many people had lost their lives whenever his dark powers ran wild. Even as an assassin he had killed people. But what he was about to do now was something much, much larger and destructive. He was instigating war between two nations which would lead to death, destruction, sorrow and loss to millions of people. In the end, he was not different from the ninja thugs whom he loathed. What shocked him was the fact that he had been fine with living in such a twisted world as long as he was safe. But when that had changed, he too had changed. It made him realize how wrong the world was, how wrong he had been, and the desperate need for change in the world. Nagato had been right in a way. He could only understand these things once he experienced that pain. For people to understand each other, they had to realize their mistakes like him. Just like the slaughter of his clan taught Naruto his mistakes, he would try to teach the world its errors. He quickly started retreating away from the dam's borders, and soon enough raised two of his fingers slowly. Boom! From the corner of his eyes he saw the structure starting to collapse slowly and the water spreading in every possible direction. The cries of the horrified Suna ninjas and civilians rang in his ears. Akino had been waiting for him at the end. The sandstorm along with her summon had been stopped as she watched the destruction they had inflicted on an entire nation with their actions. "We finally did it, didn't we?" asked Akino hesitantly. "Yeah," replied Naruto, his gaze fixed on the dark sky. "If you fight, people die. If you don't, even then they die. I guess it's true, there's no right or wrong in this world," confessed Akino. Naruto's eyes widened as his sensory powers warned him of something massive approaching their way. Turning around, his worst fears finally came true as he quickly brought his tanto forward to block a strike from the grinning man. "You're damn right, brats." Chapter 7, Resolve. The first time Naruto's blade made contact, something inside his heart stirred. As the sparks flew everywhere and Akino gasped in shock, the Uzumaki understood something. The person before him was a monster. It was then Naruto's gaze landed on the man. Dressed in the uniform of Kiri Hunter Ninja, wielding a long, sharp sword. The man's face was covered by a Hunter Nin mask, and what was strange was that his skin was blue in color. In the small gaps of his mask, he saw the man was grinning, showing his shark-like teeth. And the level of chakra. "This is insane," thought Naruto dreadfully. The sheer chakra levels of this ninja was matching those of a bloody Kage. And his strength. He got a taste of it when with just a short grunt the Kiri ninja sent him tumbling away. Akino, realizing the situation, took out her own tanto and unleashed herself on the opponent with a fierce battle cry. "Akino, stop!" yelled Naruto in horror. The boy could feel the power in the man as he brought his sword down on Akino. Time seemed to have slowed down for Naruto, the horror of watching his close friend charge to her impending doom. Slash. Crimson liquid flew in the cold desert along with the sound of metal hitting skin. There were two strangled cries, one of pain and another of horror. All the while the Kiri ninja stared at the scene with a surprised grin. Akino roughly crashed on the ground, sending sand sailing all around her. As she stopped rolling, her mortified gaze landed on him. "Naruto!" Tears welled up in her eyes as the sound of his broken tanto hitting the sand reached her ears. There was a larger spray of blood as the crimson liquid spilled forth all across Naruto's left shoulder. But the most. "Stay focused, Akino. This one's out of your league," hissed Naruto painfully. Akino stiffed a gasp on seeing his entire left eye destroyed. There was a huge blast of chakra from Naruto which made their opponent jump away, creating some distance. "I won't let you harm her," promised Naruto, and bit back the unbearable pain from his torn flesh. His left eye was completely destroyed, but it was worth it. He still couldn't believe the amount of power in this Kiri ninja. Despite Naruto using all of his strength, he barely managed to place himself between the deadly sword and Akino. He had hoped that with his tanto he could have blocked the incoming strike, but the weapon had cleaved right through his tanto, thereby destroying his eye and tearing apart a large chunk of his body. Akino arrived beside him, tears falling from her eyes as she miserably stared at what he had sacrificed for her. "That's some speed you've got there, brat. Not to mention guts, you must really care about this girl," said the Kiri ninja curiously. "Bastard," snarled Akino. The silver-haired kunoichi was about to charge and was more than shocked when Naruto placed his injured arm in front of her, thereby blocking her way. "You're no match for him, even I don't think I am," confessed Naruto. His comrade flinched. He could still see the disbelief in her eyes. It was hard for him to accept this bitter fact, but it didn't change the truth. No matter how strong he and Akino were, they were Chunin. And this man was far stronger, faster, and more experienced. Naruto could feel it. If their opponent were to unleash his full power, then he could wipe the floor with them effortlessly. In comparison to the sheer amount of chakra possessed by the Kiri ninja, Naruto and Akino's combined chakra was that of a drop in an ocean. For the first time in his life, Naruto felt outclassed. Not only had he lost an eye, but a bitter truth had been presented to him. "You're weak," said the Kiri ninja calmly, making Naruto grit his teeth in pain and frustration. Beside him, Naruto could feel Akino's anger. She was a hothead, and watching her comrade being berated like this was getting on her nerves. She could not sense or realize the grave danger they were in. Plus, she was extremely low on chakra. After summoning her vulture, as well as creating that huge sandstorm, must have taken a great toll on her. The gears churned in his mind as he came to a single harsh conclusion. Naruto's lips twitched into a faint smirk as he closed his remaining eye. After exhaling a deep breath, he turned towards the silver-haired girl. "Take care of Nagato," said Naruto softly. Her eyes widened on seeing the look in his eyes, but by then his hand had connected with her neck and her vision went dark. Naruto caught her falling form, and then turned towards his opponent who was watching them curiously. "I get the feeling you want a good fight," suggested Naruto, as the man grinned. "True. Glad to see your cunning has not dimmed in the past few days. You are interesting ninja," complimented the Kiri ninja. Naruto narrowed his eyes. The message behind those cryptic words was simple. They had been followed. Now that he thought about it, the three great villages that had attacked Yuzu could have sent hunter ninja after the handful Uzumaki who had escaped the slaughter. It went to show that he had a long way to go, both in strength and foresight. He was still a Chunin, powerful but young. He formed a hand seal as a clone of him appeared beside him. After a brief nod, the clone took the sleeping Akino in his arms and started retreating back towards the borders of Konoha. Naruto curiously observed as his opponent made no efforts to stop the escape. As if reading his question, the Kiri ninja grinned. "I have no interest in weaklings. There is no human in your ragtag group of survivors that interests me, except you," said the Kiri ninja honestly, receiving a mocking smile from the young boy. "Oh, I'm flattered," said Naruto sarcastically. "So, you ready to die now?" asked the ninja in a bored tone. Naruto raised a curious eyebrow on hearing that question. "And what makes you think that?" inquired Naruto, and saw his enemy frowning. "You sent the girl away in a noble yet foolish way and are standing here to face me, thereby buying her some time," suggested the Kiri ninja, as if it was that obvious. The hunter ninja's eyes widened as he hurriedly shifted to a side. Still, it was not nearly enough as something sharp tore through his leg. Blood again spilled on the endless desert as the Kiri ninja glared at his opponent. "You assume too much," said Naruto coldly, the kunai in his hand now sporting his enemy's blood. "You live up to your reputation, Shadow," praised the hunter ninja, even as blood flowed from his injured left leg that was sporting a nasty cut. "It's impolite to not introduce yourself," suggested Naruto, receiving a mocking bow from his opponent. Kisame Hashigaki. Naruto raised his eyebrow. He would have to keep an eye out for this one from now on, that is if he could find a way to get out of here. Now that he had only one eye left, he had to be extra cautious. The rest of his wounds across his body slowly started to heal, much to Kisame's disappointment. "I'm not gonna die tonight," swore Naruto, as he picked up Akino's tanto that was left behind by her. "Bold words for a brat with one eye," retorted Kisame, and released a monstrous amount of Ki. Instead of seeing the brat fall to his knees and tremble, Kisame was met with an unexpected sight. The young Uzumaki started chuckling madly, and it was then the Kiri ninja saw the dark shrouds of chakra being released from the boy's body. Strange seals glowed on the tanto held by Naruto, and soon the weapon was engulfed in a bright light. After a few moments it died, and much to Kisame's surprise the previously small tanto had now transformed into a broadsword. Uzumaki sure created very interesting toys, thought Kisame wickedly. For the first time Kisame was forced to acknowledge that the ninja in front of him was not ordinary. The sheer hatred and malice that made up Naruto's power would have been enough to scare any lesser ninja. For Kisame, it actually had the opposite effect. In a burst of speed Kisame charged forward and slashed his sword clean through the boy's torso. As he skidded forward, he gasped in pain and shock when blood erupted from his own back instead. The shocked hunter ninja turned back to see Naruto standing in a completely different position, his sword sporting the crimson liquid flowing through Kisame's body. "Looks like I'll have to go all out against you," said Naruto calmly. "Interesting," grinned Kisame. Kisame clasped his hands together, and Naruto felt a large amount of chakra being gathered. Right on time, the blue-colored man stepped forward and unleashed a powerful attack. Suetun Mizurappa, water style, violent water wave. A monstrous water wave at least 30 feet in length, and the same in width was created by the Kiri ninja and sent straight towards the young boy. To think he can create so much water even in the midst of a desert. Hashigaki Kisame, you, thought Naruto, the power of this man was truly magnificent. With a satisfied smile, the Uzumaki Chunin stepped forward and extended both of his hands forward towards the approaching target. Closing his single eye, he searched for the energy driving the attack and smirked. Kisame frowned when his attack stopped midway. "What?" said Kisame in shock. For his own attack was now rushing right back at him. Words were not enough to express the shock which Kisame felt now. Never in his entire life had such a thing happened to him. Not even a bloody Kage was capable of such a move. "A Kekai Genkai," thought Kisame in horror. Quickly channeling a large amount of his chakra, he created another similar water wave and launched it in a desperate defensive measure. Both attacks collided with each other, wildly leading to the creation of a small lake in the midst of the barren desert. As hundreds of water droplets fell from the sky, Kisame hurriedly brought his sword upwards. Sparks flew as metal collided with metal. "This boy. Take this," yelled Kisame, slashing his sword straight towards the boy's head. Again the boy simply disappeared and re-emerged in a completely different direction, staring back at Kisame impassively. "What the hell is going on?" thought Kisame worriedly. His eyes widened when Naruto started charging back at him at frightening speed. Kisame's eyes darted left and right in order to keep up with the boy's movements, and even more when their blades started crashing against each other. Whoever had given this boy the name Shadow had been quite right. For right now Kisame was seeing image after image of Naruto appearing continuously around him. If not for his years of battlefield experience, Kisame was sure he would be dead by now. Meanwhile, Naruto was trying every move in his arsenal to eliminate his foe. The sheer amount of chakra he was using right now was reckless. He already had only half chakra reserves in comparison to normal Uzumaki, and was average at ninjutsu. In a battle of sheer power and ninjutsu, he was sure his defeat was imminent. Yet what Kisame didn't know that Naruto's greatest weakness was also his strength. He had very little need of ninjutsu, since his Kekai Genkai allowed him to use his opponent's attacks against them, provided they were within Naruto's ability to control. While Nagato was skilled at sealing, and Akino at genjutsu as well as medical arts. He was given extensive training in one art: chakra control. Not only was this skill necessary to control his dangerous power, but it also earned him the nickname the Shadow. And judging from the increasing desperate attempts made by Kisame was enough to show he was getting overwhelmed by Naruto's special move. He doubted anybody except a Kage-level ninja, Umbu or one possessing a Sharingan could keep up with his movements. The only drawback for this monstrous speed was the enormous amount of chakra it consumed, which Naruto had little to spare. Unknown to Kisame, Naruto was also getting tired. Besides, fighting with just one eye was quite a nuisance. Both warriors jumped away from each other after clashing their swords wildly. Kisame was sporting numerous small as well as large cuts across his entire body, while Naruto had fallen to one knee, sweat rolling from his face and harsh breath escaping from his mouth. Suddenly, an unbearable pain washed over Naruto's young body and he furiously bit out a scream. "Your muscles can't handle this speed, can they?" asked Kisame knowingly, making the boy flinch. "They are strong enough to kill you," promised Naruto vengefully. "Perhaps, but you'll kill yourself in the process. And that'll be a nuisance," said Kisame flatly. Naruto remained silent. Despite it being the truth, he refrained from admitting such a thing. He was quite stunned when Kisame sheathed his sword. "What are you doing?" asked Naruto hesitantly. "I gain nothing from killing you now or dying uselessly in a suicidal battle," replied Kisame flatly. "I don't understand. Isn't it your mission to hunt down and kill the remaining Uzumaki?" questioned Naruto curiously, receiving a nod in return. "It is a mission of Kiri, not my own," admitted Kisame with a grin. Naruto lowered his own sword, now truly curious. There was something in this man's eye, something which Naruto very well knew. "You two aren't satisfied with this twisted world, are you?" asked Naruto knowingly. Kisame simply grinned in return, as Naruto's sword transformed back into the previous tanto, and he sheathed the weapon. "I've watched your actions, your resolve, your power. You may be weaker than me, but are far more cunning, am I right?" asked Kisame grinning. "Maybe," said Naruto mysteriously. "Tell me something. Why did you start the third great ninja war?" asked Kisame curiously. This time Naruto truly smiled. Despite having comrades, Akino and Nagato could perhaps never understand his vision or the path he had taken to achieve them. But perhaps this man. "There is no right or wrong in this world, Kisame. The only thing that matters is power," said Naruto honestly. "Power to rule?" suggested Kisame, sounding a little disappointed. "Those are the dreams of a child or the naive ones. I have no desire to rule or get involved in such useless affairs. What I desire is change," confessed Naruto. "Is that why you ignited war between Konoha and Suna?" "Yes, I have a plan which I believe will bring change. Kill, steal, borrow, threaten, bribe, charm. I'm prepared to use all possible ways for completing my goals," said Naruto proudly. Before Kisame could ask something or speak, Naruto fixed him with an intimidating look. "Those are my goals. What I'm interested are your goals. The fact that you followed my group, observed me and my actions, are willing to abandon your mission for something else. What do you truly want, Kisame Hashigaki?" asked Naruto seriously. "You are quite perceptive for someone your age," commented Kisame dryly, receiving a stern glare in return. "I told you, nothing matters but power and one's ambition. You are either a lion or a sheep. What are you?" asked Naruto seriously. "Let's say our visions are similar to an extent," said Kisame mysteriously, making the boy narrow his eyes in suspicion. "Not good enough." Kisame smirked. The boy was sure persistent and stubborn. And rightly so. The next few moments were quite interesting for Naruto as the man in front of him explained his own dream in detail. When Kisame was done, the Kiri ninja looked him straight in the eye. "I'd like to join this revolution you have started," confessed Kisame. "And I am right in assuming that this battle was your test for me?" asked Naruto with a smirk. "Yes. One more thing, why did you let the girl go?" "Give me an honest answer," said Kisame seriously, his eyes demanding nothing but the truth. Naruto sighed, but decided to give an explanation regardless. "It was true that I let her go to protect her, but more so because she would only get in my way. Fighting you while protecting her at the same time would have been dangerous, and I'd already sacrificed much in doing so. No point in making the same mistake again, said Naruto bluntly, making Kisame chuckle. Too bad you lost your eye before that, taunted Kisame, but stopped chuckling when Naruto gave him a bemused smile, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Oh, did I? Asked Naruto mysteriously. When the boy reopened the destroyed eye, Kisame was shocked and amazed to see the eye was fully healed, and the only proof that it had suffered such a devastating blow was the scar on Naruto's skin, which would also probably heal with time. I can see why people were scared of your clan, commented Kisame wearily. Killing me is not as easy as people think, still I enjoy letting them chastise me for being young and weak. The looks on their faces when the tables turn is quite entertaining, said Naruto wickedly, earning a respectful nod from Kisame. Point taken. So, what is your answer? Demanded Kisame, looking the boy straight in the eye. Naruto fixed his gaze on the Kiri ninja for the next few minutes. No words were said as each looked into the other's eye, trying to understand whether the other was deserving of their trust. Become my eyes and ears in Kiri. Let me make this clear, you don't serve me or I serve you. We are accomplices, said Naruto with a smirk. And what if I betray you? Challenged Kisame with a devious grin. If he was expecting the boy to get flustered or angry, he was surprised when Naruto merely shrugged nonchalantly. To each his own, I guess, it's a free world, said Naruto slyly. I find it hard to believe that you are so careless about such an important matter, commented Kisame suspiciously. It works both ways, Kisame. If you are smart enough, then you'll understand that if you betray me, then you'll simply live a worthless life in this world and become the very thing you hate. I have no need of people who are sheep or snakes. What I desire are the few warriors who are my equals with the power and ambition to accomplish their goals. Are you that man, Kisame? Asked Naruto proudly. Kisame was left speechless. Throughout his life he had come across every kind of ninja. He had met the noble, the brave, the selfish, the coward, the wicked, the power-hungry, the greedy, the evil. Yet never once he had ever come across someone who was an equal. A soul who refused to bow or expected to be bowed to, a person who shared the same goals and was determined enough to see them fulfilled. But looking at this young boy, Kisame felt something stir in his heart. There was something about this boy that was inspiring. His eyes had so much glow that it was captivating. If there ever was someone Kisame would have liked to fight beside, then it would perhaps be this boy. Humans are so interesting, thought Kisame with a faint grin. He looked the boy right in the eye and asked with a faint smirk. So, what is your group of visionaries called? Asked Kisame mockingly, though Naruto detected no malice behind the words, just simple curiosity. Naruto thought for a moment, now that he realized he was yet to come up with a name for his group. Naming them after his clan would be insulting and attract too much attention. He needed something which matched with the change he wanted to bring in this world. He caught sight of a faint red glow in the sky. The clouds were slowly disappearing along with the vanishing moon, marking the arrival of a new day. Smiling, Naruto turned towards the grinning shark-like man in front of him, uttering a word which would soon shake the foundations of the ninja world. Akatsuki. Chapter 8, Dauntless. In the dense forests of Fire Nation, a lone young boy silently sat on one of the countless trees present in the area. The afternoon sun rays were protruding the lands, and it was only the shade provided by the trees that somewhat protected him from the bright sunlight and the scorching heat. Still, his thoughts were somewhere else entirely. It may have just been close to half a day since that fateful day, yet everything in the boy's life had turned upside down since then. If one could look at Naruto right now, then they would find the sight of a frustrated person whose fists were tightly clenched, eyebrows deeply furrowed, his narrowed gaze staring at the shining tanto resting in his lap. Neither the afternoon heat or the occasional sound of wild animals bothered him the least. "You're weak." Those words continued to resonate in his mind, his heart every single second. His fists clenched further, nearly breaking his skin. He had been this close. The sheer thought that he had nearly died yesterday at the hands of an unknown ninja was humiliating. He had always believed that he was a capable ninja, not greatly strong but skilled enough. It was for these beliefs that yesterday's encounter with Kisame had been a rude shock for him. Yes, he had survived. But it was not important. Simply surviving was worse than defeat. It reminded him of the time he was forced to flee Yuzu while his home and countrymen burned, while his cherished Uzukage and his handful warriors fought a suicidal battle. He had never shown it to his friends or the children that were still alive, but he was always angry. The screams of his dying clan terrorized him at nights, their misery never letting him rest. The others had somehow accepted this turn of events, yet he couldn't. He wouldn't. He had sworn vengeance. He had sworn to change things in this twisted world. Yet he was too weak to fulfill his dreams. If he could barely manage a stalemate with a hunter ninja, then he was not even worthy of facing a veteran Kage. He had escaped from Suna, sneaked right back into Fire Nation undetected with his secret powers. His plan had worked and fighters were mounting up on both sides of borders, and soon there would be war between them. Yet why did he feel defeated? He had sat in this position for hours trying to rethink about yesterday's events again and again. He had put a brave face in front of Kisame, which was enough to convince the shark-like man, much to Naruto's relief. He was not afraid of dying, he was a shinobi after all. Yet dying a pointless death without accomplishing his dreams seemed quite useless to him. Power. His eyes widened as he remembered him saying this word to Kisame. He grit his teeth on remembering how helpless he felt on seeing Akino nearly dying, Konoha Umbu killing his people, Yuzu getting destroyed. The leaves around him started to wither and turned to ashes as his anger flowed through his heart. Never again! Every great leader who changed the world had been powerful in their own right. Even those who couldn't accomplish their dreams had become powerful enough in their own right, making sure that the world remembered them and their ideals at the very least. The very best example of this fate were Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Madara. Naruto had no doubt in his heart that he was not even a little bit like Hashirama. His heart burned with too much anger, too much thirst for power, too much hatred and regret to become such a benevolent man. Neither was he slightly crazy like Madara, maybe somewhere middle. Yet he admired each of them, for they become powerful enough. One accomplished his goals and changed the world, while the other couldn't, yet he left behind a legacy that made his clan even more famous. That was it. If he didn't want to feel helpless, if he didn't want to watch his friends die, if he wanted to avenge his clan and accomplish his goals, that he needed power. He had to become strong, he had to become more cunning and smart. To bring the change he desired, he would not only need individual power, but political, military, diplomatic and financial powers. At the same time, he had to make sure his remaining clansmen survived. He was not so sure about how long he would live, since his goals would put him right in the heat of conflicts and dangerous situations, so at the very least he had to make sure his friends and his people survived. And for that he had to become strong. His gaze hardened as he firmly picked up his tanto. Wallowing in the past would change nothing, he would use this humiliating encounter as a lesson and improve. That was the only way forward. And with those thoughts he again started his long journey back to their secret hideout where his friends were waiting for him. His clone had dispelled itself hours ago, informing him that Akino was safe. Although by the time the clone did reach the hideout, the silver-haired girl had regained conscience and the look in her eyes had promised bloody murder if he ever came back alive. He groaned. "This is going to be quite an unpleasant day," muttered Naruto, as he started jumping across trees. Kushina curiously stared at the young boy currently seated at her dining table. Happily slurping his way through the ramen noodles in his bowl with a goofy smile on his face, young Obito Uchiha was the perfect picture of a bubbly young lad. She couldn't help but smile on seeing that the boy still wore the goggles she had got for him. It was nothing but a small birthday present, yet to see the boy cherish it till this day was heartwarming for her. At the same time, it made her heart sink a little as well, and her bitterness towards Minato increased ever so slightly. For the boy sitting in front of her was the younger son of her former lover. A year younger than Naruto, the black-haired Uchiha was the picture of what her son Naruto could have been had she fought harder to keep his custody. It was still hard for her to accept that Obito's birth was an unplanned event, just like Naruto's. She couldn't help but shake her head in disbelief. For all his talent, Minato was sure careless in some matters. A few months after Naruto was taken from her, she had blasted out at Minato in her usual hot-headed manner, leading to the end of their relationship. She could still remember how miserable Minato had been for not only having lost his son but also the love of his life. And it had led to a drunken night with Mikoto Uchiha. The Uchiha woman was 2 years younger than Kushina, and both of them had been good friends. Yet Mikoto was certainly not pleased with Kushina blaming Minato alone for their combined suffering, as if he was in any different position than hers. Kushina had felt betrayed at that moment, but looking back now she could understand where Mikoto was coming from. The Raven had always carried a torch for the blonde Namikaze. And so Obito was born. Minato had never fully loved Mikoto, and they never married. Yet she could see that he had stepped up to his unplanned new responsibility, and helped Mikoto raise the boy currently sitting in front of her. This was the true reason for her hatred and bitterness for Minato, and to some extent for herself. Staring at the picture of her own son nearly made her tear up again. While she was truly happy for Obito having a good childhood and even cared for the boy, it still made her realize the boy had everything her son never had. And Obito's very existence reminded her of what her own son could have been, instead of the cold shinobi that stared at her with his emotionless eyes from the picture. If Obito was the light, then Naruto was the darkness. It was as simple as that for her. Despite all of this, she was grateful for having this little idiot in her life. Mikoto had been extremely kind in allowing her to be a part of Obito's life. Her friend had probably always known the hole in her heart that had been created due to Naruto's absence, and tried to fill it with Obito's presence. While not enough, it had given Kushina enough reason to live on in the hopes of reuniting with her own son someday. To have him meet his younger step-brother and his father, she had always dreamed of it. Alas, it was never going to happen. A soft hand was placed on her wrist as the sensation of a lone finger brushing off the tears falling from her cheeks finally brought her out of her thoughts. She hadn't even realized she had started crying again, and was now the target of Obito's worried gaze. "Are you okay?" asked Obito worriedly, staring at her with his usual innocent eyes. "Yes, thank you," replied Kushina gently. It was not a good thing to let her sorrow fall on this boy. He deserved better. Obito fidgeted a bit, and she saw he was desperately trying to come to a decision. It actually reminded her of Mikoto, but after a few seconds the boy had made up his mind and his determined gaze was almost the same as Minato himself. "I don't think he's dead," said Obito carefully, eliciting a surprised look from the redhead Jinchuriki. Kushina saw the boy's gaze was fixed on Naruto's photograph. Minato had always been honest with his younger son and had revealed to Obito about the existence of his elder step-brother. Surprisingly, instead of feeling jealous, the Uchiha was delighted and had pestered his parents for months to meet his sibling. Alas, his wish never came true. Yet just like her, Obito always had a fantasy of his own of someday meeting this mysterious elder brother. It was childish, but then again he was young and had a good heart. His desire to accept Naruto had what made Kushina love Obito and allowed their strange relationship to grow. As the news of Yuzu's fall and her clan's demise spread in Konoha, he was the first to approach her. He had even brought ramen for her, which was a good gesture of support, and had expressed regret for what happened to her family. Kushina was quite relieved that Obito had promised not to extract vengeance on the 3 cursed villages who committed that brutal massacre. Although the boy did promise to oust the Kages, which was quite cute. It was her responsibility to avenge her clan, not Obito's. And now hearing him express hope about Naruto's survival made her heart rise. It was the first time anyone had said such a thing despite the impossible odds. Yet it also brought to light another scary thought. Could Naruto truly forgive Konoha, her and Minato for not only abandoning him but letting Yuzu burn to ashes? One look into the eyes of the ice-cold boy in the picture was enough to give Kushina the answer. "I want to believe that too, Obi. But even if he's alive, I don't think Naru will want to come back after everything that has happened," said Kushina sadly, using the nicknames she had chosen for her boys. She blinked. Since when had she considered Obito as one of her own? But as she remembered the years spent beside this boy, watching him grow up, Helping him become strong was enough to show that despite not being her blood, Obi was like her own little son. Cute, rebellious and... That's stupid! Yelled Obito. She smirked as Obito himself called out the word which she had in mind for him. That was not to say he was dumb, far from it. Yet, in a way, Obito had never seen the harsh world they all lived in. But his stubborn self refused to accept reality, and continued to believe in the peaceful world he always dreamed. Obi warned Kushina, before the boy went off on any of his long rants. I don't understand, Oba-san. We are his family, sure we may fight, but his place is with us, isn't it? Asked Obito hesitantly, receiving a smile from her. He's a peculiar one, that boy. The Uzumaki always told me Naruto had always been different from others his age. He did make friends and has compassion for those he cares about. Yet he never forgave either me or his father for not being there for him, and rightly so. Imagine growing up as an orphan on your own despite having parents? Asked Kushina patiently. Obito flinched. The defiant fire in his eyes dimmed considerably, as he imagined growing up all alone without the love of a family. Relying only on yourself, facing the world every day all alone despite having parents. It was a curse. Realization dawned on the young Uchiha, who finally understood the strained relationship his elder sibling had with his parents. His eyes shifted towards the picture of Naruto Uzumaki. The boy had always been a mystery to him. A part of him had trained hard to be a fine ninja when he heard about Naruto acing his Chunin tournament. And Obito just couldn't bear to see the sadness in Kushina's eyes. She really missed her son, and despite Obito's best efforts he knew he could not fill that hole completely. Kushina had always been kind to him, even spoiled him a lot. She was the one who gave him his awesome goggles, introduced ramen to him, helped him refine his ninjutsu, and most of all she truly believed and readily encouraged his dream to become Hokage. Kushina was startled when Obito looked her right in the eye and gently grasped her hand. I'll bring him back to you, I promise, said Obito fiercely, grim determination burning in his eyes. Obi, you don't, pleaded Kushina, not wanting to place such a heavy burden on this young child's shoulders. But Obito had already made up his mind as he shook his head. I'll drag him back to Konoha screaming if I have to. I won't accept anything less, declared Obito confidently. You've really set on this, aren't you? Asked Kushina with a resigned sigh, even as she suppressed the tears arriving in her eyes. Till the end, promised Obito. For the first time Kushina felt hope rising in her heart. A picture of an older brooding Naruto embracing her and living the rest of his life with his family passed in front of her eyes. And looking into Obito's determined gaze made her wonder. Maybe you'll succeed where I failed, Obi. Naruto was not surprised to find Nagato waiting for him near the border of their small camp. After all, it was necessary that one of the trio was always on guard duty despite the powerful traps and seals they had set in every direction. His friend was giving him a tired smile as both of them exchanged a brief hug. You really like getting into trouble, don't you? Asked Nagato with a heavy sigh, as Naruto grinned. Life wouldn't be as exciting without them, replied Naruto cheekily, and saw Nagato lower his head in disbelief. That bad? Asked Naruto worriedly. If even Nagato didn't sound too cheerful, then it was definitely confirmed Akino had went nuts. I'll bury you afterwards, for old time's sake, said Nagato dramatically, receiving a mild glare from his best friend. Shut up. I'm used to your reckless ways, but not Akino. Why do you do this to her, Naruto? She low. Nagato flinched when he received a cold glare from Naruto. The fact that his friend had even raised his hand to stop him from speaking further went to show Naruto's reluctance in this matter. I've said this before, I have no time for relationships. I care for her and would not hesitate to risk my life for her, but my dreams are different from hers, said Naruto fiercely. Still after power? Asked Nagato knowingly, and was not surprised on receiving a proud nod. You are free to choose a different path if you like. I don't want either of you to follow me just because we're friends, said Naruto flatly. You know I've got your back no matter what. Same goes for Akino, replied Nagato confidently, making Naruto smile. I'm grateful for that. It's just that I don't feel what Akino feels for me, confessed Naruto, as Nagato sighed. Regrettable. You two would have made a good couple, teased Nagato. Team. Easy. I'll try to make her understand, but it'll take time, and you know how she is, reassured Nagato, making Naruto smile broadly. Thank you? She deserves better, although I don't have the heart to say this to her, replied Naruto honestly. Nagato stared at his friend curiously as a question arose in his mind, deciding to ask it a way he looked his friend right in the eye. So what kind of girl would you like? I'm sure we can arrange something eventually, teased Nagato. Now you're doing this on purpose, sulked Naruto, earning a light chuckle from his friend. Humor me. Naruto wanted to protest. This just wasn't the time, and neither did he want to discuss such a useless topic. His friends were his closest allies, yet they didn't share his vision and were as fiercely devoted to it as he was. He didn't resent them for that, but it sure irked him sometimes. Maybe that was why he felt this strange sense of new camaraderie with Kisame. Sure, the Kirin ninja was crazy, but he understood. And that was what made the man extremely valuable to Naruto. He didn't need large armies or great wars to fulfill his vision. It could be completed with least bloodshed and less conflicts. All he needed were a few people like him and time, and he would make his dream a reality. Still, judging from the look in Nagato's eyes, his friend wanted an answer, and was not going to relent without one. And considering he would need Nagato to handle Akino, now more than ever made Naruto relent. It was better to have at least one of his best friends taking his side to conserve their group. Fine, said Naruto tiredly, and glared when Nagato grinned triumphantly. As Naruto dived into his mind to find out the traits of his desired mate, Nagato's eyes were observing his friend with a much deeper expression. Unknown to Naruto, he was being made a part of a secret experiment by Nagato. There had always been something about Naruto's psyche that was different, something damaged. Nagato had his suspicions, and today he was going to test them out. I don't know, said Naruto honestly, quite stunned with his own clueless answer and lack of desire. Nagato briefly closed his eyes. He was right. The boy standing in front of him may appear a normal person to most people, but something deep inside his friend was broken. Something which either Akino or he could heal. The very first contact any male child had in life would always be their mother's in most cases. And Naruto's first contact with not just people, but against the fairer sex had been destructive on every level. The shock of being rejected by his own mother still haunted his friend till this day. And it was this secret reason why Naruto was so uncomfortable around people, especially females. The fear of being betrayed again terrified the boy. Nagato's heart sank a bit for both his friends. For Akino to fall head over heels for such a man, and seeing Naruto suffer every day. This helpless feeling always made him ashamed. He was not as strong as Naruto or understanding and smart as Akino. What could he do to help his friends? Naruto's plan to change the world would put his life in danger, but his friend didn't care for his own life since he believed nobody would miss him much once he died. It was wrong on every level, but Naruto was set in his beliefs. He had no reason to believe otherwise. If Naruto was to truly walk this path, then Nagato would follow him until the end. No matter what. But his friend deserved better. Akino deserved better. He didn't know what came in his heart as he embraced Naruto in a brotherly hug. His friend was also as surprised by this move as Nagato himself as he stiffened a little, yet Naruto managed to place a shaky hand on Nagato's back. Don't worry about it. We'll get through all of this, promised Nagato. Someday I will reunite you with your family. If my intuition is right, then they love you, Naruto thought Nagato secretly, a smile arriving on his lips. He had finally found something to fight for. Aside from supporting Naruto in his quest and being Akino's friend, he would help them live their dreams. For the two of them were Nagato's dream. They were his family. The sheer thought filled his heart with joy and determination. He would not falter in this task no matter what happened. No matter what obstacle came before him. Thank you, Nagato, replied Naruto gratefully, his voice actually gentle for a change. Now, tell me what happened with this hunter ninja, asked Nagato seriously, trying to get things back on track in order to not make either of them feel uncomfortable after the unexpected show of emotions. Inwardly, Naruto suppressed a flinch. His initial decision to say the truth was blocked by this nasty feeling in his gut. While he didn't doubt Nagato would support him, his friend wouldn't be pleased with this new alliance, especially after Kisame nearly killed him and Akino. And if Akino ever got wind of this, which she definitely would due to her bossy attitude and Nagato's desire to not hurt her feelings. No, he had made the decision to ally with Kisame alone. This was his responsibility. The risk of this alliance was his to bear, not anyone else's. He didn't want his friends to worry about a secret ally who could turn on them any moment. Neither Akino or Nagato had the resolve to handle this pressure every day. Besides, he wanted Kisame to be his secret trump card, only to be revealed in the most dire situations. It was done. For the safety of his friends, they didn't need to know. If there ever came a point where the situation changed, then he would think about alternatives. But right now, he needed to keep this secret, at least until he found his friends and the Uzumaki children a safe haven. One step at a time, Naruto, he reminded himself. A moment later he gave Nagato a grim look, and was satisfied when his friend gave a weak nod. He hated lying like this, but it was the best solution for now. Well, I'm just glad you survived. We'll get him next time, suggested Nagato, earning a nod in return. We will, said Naruto confidently, as his friend pushed him forward towards their cave with a wink. You shouldn't keep a lady waiting, especially when it's Akino, teased Nagato, and chuckled on seeing Naruto mumble traitor as he made his way towards their hideout. Nagato continued chuckling for the next few moments as he continued to imagine the hell Naruto was going to face. It actually made him pity his friend. Akino had spent every second of the past few hours in unbearable agony. From the moment she regained consciousness just in time to watch Naruto's clone disappear, thereby revealing Naruto was not by her side, had given her a heart attack. She had remembered his request to take care of Nagato, his desperate scream as the hunter ninja's sword was coming down on her. The flash that appeared in front of her, and the sound. Her heart continued to shatter again and again as she remembered his brief hiss as Kisame's sword tore through Naruto's eye and down to his shoulder. That horrific sight of watching his blood erupt in a powerful shower. She had never felt this much helpless in her entire life, to be able to do nothing for the person she loved. To watch him destroy his body to shield her life, she would never wish such a curse on even her deepest enemies. Pure hot fury had burned inside of her, as she had ranted in front of Nagato regarding Naruto's reckless decision, and the utter hatred that burned in her heart for Kisame. No matter how long it would take her, she would kill that bastard for hurting Naruto. He would pay. Yet beneath all that anger simmering through her heart lay fear and desperation. She could not imagine a life without Naruto. He was an egoistical bastard, his dreams were so vast that it made her feel small, his thirst for vengeance scared her, but despite everything, there was good in him. Nagato and her had always seen him step forward to lead and take them forward, yet she had seen the regret and sadness in his eyes for failing to save the Uzumaki, for letting her get captured, for being unable to save many of the survivors who had perished by the hands of those despicable Konoha Anbu. Yet despite everything, he was willing to die for her, letting all his dreams wither away just so she could live. It had made her realize something important. She had no right to push her feelings on him. The sheer thought of what she was putting him through disgusted her. Just like the rest of them, Naruto was trying to accept the loss of his village, his clan, his comrades. He was trying to give all of them a future. She couldn't even imagine the pressure he must be feeling. In this matter, Nagato was far better than her. Despite lacking resolve, Nagato dearly cared for his friends. He was willing to follow Naruto to the gates of hell itself without expecting a single thing in return. He would not even hesitate to die for his friends. He was so pure, probably the most loyal person she ever had the privilege of knowing. And she admired him for that. She dearly wished for Kami to save Naruto, to let him come back to them alive. She was determined never to put so much pressure on him. If he ever returned her feelings, then it would be the happiest day of her life. And if not, then she would accept that as well, since he had a right to choose his fate. He was a free man. Akino froze. Time seemed to have stopped for her, as he entered the cave and stopped himself. Their eyes met, and she saw him flinch, which made her feel guilty. He was expecting her to lash out at him. And he was not wrong, since if she had not realized her mistake, then she would have exactly done that. What was shocking was that his lost eye was fully healed, which left her speechless. His clothes were torn, but most of his wounds were healed. The tension in the air was unbearable, as he hesitantly took a step towards her. He saw her gasp in horror. And then there was darkness. Chapter 9: The Promise. Naruto's eyes slowly fluttered open. The first thing he noticed was the grim rocky structure of the cave. The atmosphere was quite cold, making him shiver a little. He felt the soft feeling of the bed beneath his back, wondering just when did Nagato procure such a thing and where from. Deciding to blink away the remnants of sleep from his groggy eyes, he tried to lift his right hand only to find it blocked. It was then did he feel the comfortable warmth along with the slight weight pressed to his left side. Someone's legs had entwined with one of his own, and he felt the sound of faint breaths on his chest. For the first time, a true genuine smile arrived on his lips. His confused stare turned to one of affection as he saw Akino wrapped tightly beside him, her soft and warm body providing him the needed protection in the cold weather. Her long silver hair had fallen all over her face and his chest, and Naruto was surprised to find that his own left hand was holding her close to him. He remained still, not knowing what to do. Her steady breathing showed she was in deep sleep, and he would be damned if he disturbed her when she looked so peaceful. He felt so tired as he took a deep breath, managing to make Akino smile faintly as she was lifted a little higher due to his rising chest. This girl, thought Naruto in disbelief, even as he mirrored the smile that was present on her lips. His thoughts drifted towards the conversation he had with Nagato before he collapsed. Guess, even his body had limits, and he had nearly exhausted all his chakra reserves with all the fighting, healing, and running. He pressed Akino a little closer to him, enjoying the feeling of her smooth body. She was growing up and slowly transforming into a woman from a teenage girl. As he looked at her, it made him realize that she was probably the most beautiful girl he had ever seen in his life. And with time, she would grow even more magnificent. Stroking a few strands of her smooth silver hair, he thought about her confession of her feelings for him, as well as Nagato's suggestion. To be honest, he had never felt the need for a life partner. Sure, friends he needed, but anything more than that. He still couldn't understand what she saw in him, since he didn't even believe he was worthy of her or, as a matter of fact, any woman. If only he could understand just what the hell was going through his mind. Any normal person his age would be jumping at the chance of having such an attractive female fall for him, yet he simply felt empty. Deep down he felt guilty for torturing Akino like this, but he himself didn't have a clue. And she was so pushy. It was her greatest fault. She simply didn't know when to quit or give some space, constantly letting him know her intentions. At first he had been surprised and flattered. But ever since Yuzu was destroyed, he was a mess. He purposefully didn't let either of his friends see it. They themselves were dealing with their own emotional problems. That was why he had to be strong and project a pacifying facade. He didn't want to be a leader, but there was no other choice. His friends and the surviving children blindly believed he would lead them to safety, and their lives would go back to normal. But what about him? What should be his next move? Where should he take them? What risks would come with such a decision? What if they got in trouble? What if he faced someone more stronger than Kisame? Naruto couldn't bear watching any more of his people die. Falling in battle would be more merciful in comparison to that pain. But for Akino, all of that was a secondary priority. All that mattered to her was that he return her feelings. He had been patient and tried to reason with her because he didn't want to hurt her feelings. But he simply wasn't ready for such a relationship. Perhaps he never would be ready. He was thankful that he felt unconscious before their talk began. He was already on edge and only had limited patience to deal with her angry rants or remarks. He feared he would say something bad in his anger that would deeply hurt her and damage their friendship. If only this silly girl understood just how precious she was to him. People didn't need to romantically love each other to understand their importance. The camaraderie he felt with her and Nagato was the only thing preventing him from going downright dark. It was the concern for their safety and what they thought of him and his actions that stopped him from crossing moral lines. There was so much to do, so much to accomplish, and he doubted that he would have the time, energy, or desire to address this issue anytime soon. He had to stay focused. It was not just Akino or Nagato's life that he was responsible for, but all the children that were sleeping peacefully in different corners of the cave snuggled up against their friends. He had to preserve the Uzumaki clan's legacy. The parents and family members of these children had entrusted him to take care of them, and this responsibility was more important than any desire for revenge or personal feelings. With war now inevitable between Konoha and Suna, these lands were no longer safe. He had to come up with a plan right away, or risk having his group ambushed again by any side. Placing a soft kiss on Akino's forehead which made her sigh contentedly, he created a shadow clone. With a nod, he replaced himself with the clone who seemed more than happy to place himself beside the silver-haired girl. Giving his clone a warning glare which earned him a slight roll of the eyes from his copy, Naruto made his way outside. He needed to think. When he returned back, he found both of his friends waiting for him. In Nagato's case, his friend had sent a clone as the real one was still on patrol duty around the border of their perimeter. Never again were they letting their guard down and risk getting killed or captured again. What was surprising that Akino was standing in a corner and looked quite reserved for a change. Naruto had received the memory of his dispelled clone. When the silver-haired girl had woken up, she didn't say anything and simply walked away into another corner of the cave to do something. It was strange since Naruto had expected her to destroy his clone just because she was pissed at him. He saw her stealing a glance at him, and noticing his calm yet flat gaze made her flinch. He had finally decided to ignore the subject of Akino's feelings aside for now. There were far more important things to accomplish rather than addressing the feelings of an infatuated girl. It was cold, even cruel, and he knew that. But he had a responsibility, and he would make sure that it was fulfilled. Maybe ignoring her would serve to destroy her misguided feelings for him. If not, then he would deal with the situation when the time came. Still, he decided to make his stand clear to his friend. They had chosen him to lead, and now it was the moment where they proved their allegiance to him. "We are leaving Fire Nation," said Naruto bluntly. "Thought as much. Things are getting tense with the upcoming war with Suna. What do you have in mind?" asked Nagato eagerly, making Naruto smile. He was glad that his friend was as eager to get out of this wretched nation and its disgusting people. "Now, wait just a moment. Are you guys insane? Do we really have to make such a move so recklessly?" asked Akino in surprise. She gasped when Nagato simply shrugged. And when she looked at Naruto, she shivered. "I don't have to explain the gravity of the situation to you, Akino. If you use your talents on more pressing matters, then you would have easily seen the dire situation we are in," replied Naruto coldly. He had to use every ounce of his willpower to not flinch. Akino stared at him. The look in her eyes was enough to show that someone had just given her a tight slap. Even Nagato's eyes were a little wide, but he refused to comment and make things worse. The ball was in Akino's court. Naruto saw her trying to digest the harsh remark, her mind still in shock and trying to conjure a response. Seeing she was not convinced, he steeled himself and gave her a professional gaze of a shinobi, not of a friend. "You are a ninja of Yuza like us. Our only duty is to protect the children left alive, that's the mission," said Naruto icily. "You," stuttered Akino. "The mission is all that should matter, nothing more. And as team leader I expect to have your support in this," suggested Naruto, the meaning clear behind his cryptic words. Nagato closed his eyes when Akino looked at both the boys disappointedly. Naruto suppressed a flinch when she straightened up and gave him a formal salute. All playfulness and hesitation gone from her eyes, as she stared at him blankly. He didn't know why he felt an aching pain in his heart on seeing the look in her eye, or the lump that was forming in his throat on making her go through this. "Order acknowledged. Is there anything else?" asked Akino professionally. "Dismissed," whispered Naruto, as she roughly walked past him. When it was sure Akino was out of hearing distance, Nagato fixed his gaze at his friend whose shoulders had slumped. Naruto's eyes showed even more tiredness than when he had arrived from his encounter with Kisame. "You sure about this, Naruto?" asked Nagato hesitantly. Yes. She's too emotional, Nagato. You didn't see her almost dying on the mission just because she couldn't control her emotions for me. Her focus on me is quite unhealthy, and she needs to be reminded of our priorities. I am willing to bear her hatred if it means she performs her duty and continues to survive. That's all that matters to me, explained Naruto frankly. Since when did simply surviving become more important than living? Asked Nagato heatedly, and regretted asking the question when the air in the cave dropped a few degrees. Naruto was giving him a stern glare, yet Nagato saw the pain evident in his friend's eyes. It became important when we lost our village, when we lost our people, when we were betrayed by everyone, when the last of our people are still being hunted down like cattle. I can't afford to fail anymore. All my life I devoted myself to our nation and our people. Their well-being and survival is my reason for existence, and I've already failed my mission twice. I can't make that mistake again, I won't, promise Naruto fiercely. Maybe you did the right thing as our team leader. But as a person, do you honestly think what you did to Akino was right? Questioned Nagato patiently. My personal feelings are worthless and unimportant, replied Naruto flatly, and what was more disturbing for Nagato was the fact that Naruto actually believed that. You're stupid, said Nagato irritatedly, and received an icy glare from his friend. From the beginning of my life, what I think, what I feel has never mattered or been considered. My path was chosen the day when my own parents gave me up. The only reason I lived till this day was because the Uzumaki gave me a mission to believe in and fight for. The mission is to serve my nation and protect my people, and I won't let anything interfere with that. Not even Akino or you, promised Naruto fiercely. Naruto, you do know that it's nearly impossible for us to rebuild our village? Asked Nagato hesitantly, and for the first time he saw the longing in Naruto's eyes. His friend had dearly loved their nation, no matter the struggles he had to go through because of it. I know, Nagato, whispered Naruto, losing his built-up anger. Yet I've still heard you say that you will reform Yuzu and restore our clan's position of power in this world? Yes. How? On that question, Naruto took a deep breath and reined in his emotions. Nagato was his closest and most dependable ally, and it was vital that he agreed with this plan. Can you swear your loyalty as a ninja to a foreign nation? Asked Naruto seriously, and was not surprised on the glare he received in return. What? Hissed Nagato. And become the leader of our clan? Questioned Naruto. Nagato took a few steps back. Words were not enough to describe the utter shock he felt in this moment. His friend was asking him not to lead a small team, but an entire clan? It was utterly insane. What the hell are you up to, Naruto? I want the truth, now, said Nagato fiercely, showing his aggressiveness for the first time. Amegakure, replied Naruto simply, as Nagato's gaze shifted towards the ninja world map which they had placed in one of the corners of the cave. Situated in landlocked borders with 3 great villages, small Amegakure seemed like an ant in comparison to the once great Yuzu. Yet the way his friend was staring at that small piece of land made Nagato understand that Naruto had quite a different perspective. What do you see, Nagato? Asked Naruto curiously, his patient gaze easing the initial shock Nagato had felt. Not much, replied Nagato honestly. That nation is not just the future of our clan but of the new world order I want to establish, confessed Naruto, finally revealing a little constructive side of his grand plan. Nagato merely raised a curious eyebrow at that, yet gave a nod for his friend to continue. While it is small and has suffered in the past 2 wars due to the 3 big villages, namely Konoha, Suna and Iwa, in the last 2 decades it is slowly becoming strong under the leadership of Salamander Hanzo. You have heard about him, haven't you? Asked Naruto, getting another nod from his friend. Of course. He single-handedly defeated and annexed the samurai nation 7 years ago, said Nagato frankly. And what else do you know about that man and his nation? Inquired Naruto, making his friend frown a little as he placed a finger on his chin, adopting a thinking pose. Honestly, not much. Aino is a closely guarded nation, but from the reports I've read its shinobi are not as strong or as talented as Hanzo. Annexing Land of Iron gave that village enough resources to create a self-sufficient economy. It also has a good number of natural resources. Also, the three great villages have tried to stop the rise of this nation, but Hanzo has been able to stop their nefarious schemes, explained Nagato in detail. Accurate. Yet even a man like Hanzo knows that if those three were to unite, then his nation would be destroyed. Our own country's destruction would have already set alarm bells for him, and he would be looking to bolster his defenses in every possible way. Despite his own strength and the decent army he has, Hanzo's nation lacks the powers of the special ninja clan that Iwa, Konoha, and Suna has. Now imagine if the Uzumaki come to his aid. We may not have the numbers, but our knowledge in the sealing arts, as well as other ninja talents, can help him immensely. Plus, he would officially have an ancient, noble clan pledging loyalty to his nation, thereby alleviating Aim's status in the world. Meaning more business for his nation, explained Naruto seriously. To say Nagato was speechless would be an understatement. The plan was risky and depended on a lot of uncertain variables and possibilities, yet he could see the glimmer of success behind it all. He stared at his friend, who impassively waited for him to state his opinion, and for a moment he felt awed and scared of Naruto. His friend was a visionary and cunning fox who knew how to accomplish his dreams. Now Nagato understood why the Uzumaki had left their clan's future to Naruto. With him guiding them, their hope for not only surviving these harsh times but regaining their lost glory seemed possible. If Hanzo rises, then so does the clan which supported him. The Uzumaki would become the dominant family in Aim if we play our cards right, just like the Uchiha and Senju of Konoha. But we'll have to pledge our loyalty to another leader? Asked Nagato hesitantly. He was after all a soldier of Yuzu, and this plan, no matter how beneficial, seemed a little wrong to him. You, Akino, and the rest our clan will have to do so. It is necessary to restore our clan's glory. This is the only way, Nagato requested Naruto politely. And what about you? Asked Nagato hesitantly, and saw his friend smile grimly. My other ambitions will get in the way, Nagato. Besides, I can never swear my loyalty to anyone else. I'll live my entire life as the last soldier of Yuzu, said Naruto proudly. There is nothing I can say that can make you change your mind? Asked Nagato tiredly, and saw Naruto smirk triumphantly. No. So you want me to be the leader of our clan? Asked Nagato worriedly. Naruto gave his friend a proud smile, and placed a hand on the young redhead's shoulder. Nagato gave a weak smile in return. You have a good heart, Nagato. And you care about our people as much as me. Despite my talents, I'm not someone whom our people can freely approach with their problems. I'm a soldier and I will protect them from the shadows, but it is you and Akino who must gain Hanzo and his nation's trust towards our clan. Then and only then will the Uzumaki gain everything they have lost, explained Naruto patiently. I'm not good enough, mumbled Nagato, as Naruto surprisingly placed a hand on his friend's head. You will be the savior of our clan, Nagato. I know you can do it, said Naruto honestly. A lone tear fell from Nagato's eyes as he stared into his friend's shining eyes that were full of pride and confidence. Nobody had ever trusted him with anything important in his entire life. His own parents had loved him but never believed him to be capable of greatness. Even in the academy he felt eclipsed by Akino and Naruto. After Yuzu's fall he still felt useless for being weak. And here was a person willing to believe in him despite all his weaknesses. Even going as far as making him the future leader of their clan, an honor Nagato didn't think he deserved. Yet looking into Naruto's proud eyes made him believe that maybe, just maybe, he could live up to everyone's expectations. And if he became leader and got close to Hanzo, then he could get more support for whatever revolution Naruto wanted to bring in this world. I'll support you in every way I can, Nagato, promised Naruto. You, whispered Nagato, still stunned with what he had just heard. Can you give me some time to think? Asked Nagato slowly, getting a nod from his friend. Of course. I plan to take us all to Aim by the end of the week. I'm sure you'll come to a decision by then. And no matter what happens or what decision you make, I believe in you, Nagato said Naruto proudly. With one last encouraging smile to his friend, Naruto turned around and started walking away in order to check up on the children. As much as difficult it was for him to accept, his future lied with the Akatsuki. Despite Nagato and Akino's willingness to follow him out of the goodness out of their hearts, he knew they had other dreams as well and were vital for the Uzumaki clan. At least this way. This is goodbye, isn't it? Naruto froze. His eyes widened on hearing his friend's voice. Hesitantly turning around, he saw Nagato staring at him with a wistful yet compassionate smile. Nagato. You're a crappy villain, you know that, scolded Nagato calmly, as his friend still stared at him in shock. Making me the clan leader, deliberately pushing Akino away in the name of the mission. Still trying to protect us? Said Nagato knowingly, and was not surprised when Naruto's fists clenched as he averted his gaze. You assume too much, hissed Naruto coldly, trying to ignore his friend's piercing stare. You aren't getting rid of us so easily. Darkness or light, the three of us swore to have each other's backs. We made a promise, and I won't let you break it, warned Nagato. You, said Naruto in a stunned voice, even as Nagato got a cocky smirk on his lips. Besides, as clan leader I can order my lackey to do whatever I want, can I? Asked Nagato mischievously, as his friend's eyebrows twitched. Lackey? Hissed Naruto irritatedly, making Naruto smirk even more. Nagato Uzumaki commands you, minion. The redhead had to duck as a kunai sailed above him. Surprised, he looked at Naruto, whose eyebrows were heavily twitching. Nagato simply pretended to dust off the imaginary dirt from his shoulders. That's it, yelled Naruto irritatedly. Akino had been silently grumbling outside the cave. How dare that stupid Naruto insult her like that? Did Kisame knock out his common sense or something? She didn't know whether to be pissed off at the boy, smack him repeatedly on the head, or simply pity him. It was fair to say that Naruto Uzumaki was always driving her insane. But that's what you like about him, isn't it? Shut up. She sighed as her own two imaginary sides continued to bicker inside her head. Naruto was as frustrating and difficult to handle as always, yet despite her initial anger and hurt she could see that something had affected him. Something must have happened on the mission, that must be why he was deliberately pushing her away. And Kami, was he awfully bad at that? The three of them had been through a lot, and if that dumbass thought that such lame attempts would push her away, then he was in for a rude surprise. Nagato had insisted that they had to stick together, no matter what, despite their differences. And begrudgingly Akino had to agree with her friend. In a way, she was grateful to Nagato. He kept their team together and served as a mediator between his friends. His calm nature was the reason why Naruto and she could even tolerate each other and become such good friends. She was surprised when the same Nagato madly dashed out of the cave, as a series of kunai as well as small water bullets followed after him, courtesy of a pissed-off Naruto who was chasing his friend. And despite everything, it made her smile. She fondly observed as Naruto finally caught his friend and gave him a few bumps on the head. Nagato in turn merely shrunk to the ground as a depressed cloud loomed over the boy's head, even as Naruto continued to scold him on only Kami knew what. Yet watching them sticking together no matter what gave her hope. She couldn't give up on either of her friends so easily. No matter what awaited them in the future, they would stick together and be there for each other. And that was a promise. Chapter 10. The Angel Wants Blood. 1 week later, the Uzumaki now stood on the borders of the nation called Amegakure. Infamously known as the country forever plagued by rain, Amegakure was so far holding true to its legacy of mystery and uniqueness. At least to Naruto. Currently seated atop Akino's largest vulture summon, the shinobi carefully observed the small town beneath them. Nagato was beside him as well as Akino, with the nervous Uzumaki children huddled behind them. Their fates now solely in the hands of the last three soldiers of Yuzu. Nagato observed his leader closing his eyes for a second and saw the slight frown visible on Naruto's face. "What is it?" asked Akino, as she saw even Nagato starting to concentrate. Unlike the boys, she was not that good at sensing from such a distance. She was further irritated when both boys shared a grim nod. They were still not answering her question, which was making her nervous. "It seems I underestimated this nation," admitted Naruto bitterly. "This is the nearest border town, yet there are several squads of strong shinobi here. Not to mention," said Nagato mysteriously. "I don't understand." Since when does a border town start getting this heavy force for protection? Asked Akino confusedly. She saw Naruto's gaze fixated on the small patch of mountains that were a few kilometers away from the town. Akino couldn't see or feel anything in that place, yet Naruto's entire attention was fixed there, which must mean something. Guess our bad luck never ends. Nagato, prepare for battle, instructed Naruto, making his friends tense. Are you sure? Asked Nagato hesitantly, even as his hands etched towards his tanto. We've already been detected. Running now will only complicate things, not to mention destroy any chance of us ever finding a place in aim. We have to fight, insisted Naruto. Can somebody tell me what the hell is going? Hissed Akino. She couldn't say it out loud, but Akino was scared. There were only a handful times when she had seen that look on Naruto's face, and every memory had been dreadful. First when Yuzu fell, and then Kisame, and now. I don't have time to explain right now, Akino. I want you to remain here and protect the children. Under no circumstances are you to intervene, said Naruto icily, and raised his hand when she opened her mouth to protest. I am the team leader, and you will obey my order. If not for anything else, then at least trust me for their sake, requested Naruto and pointed towards the worried children who were holding on to each other. That worked as Akino's defiance dimmed considerably. She stepped forward and engulfed both her friends in a warm hug. Be careful, whispered Akino, earning small smiles from the boys. Once they parted, Nagato and Naruto stepped towards the edge. Akino saw Nagato look towards his leader, who understood his obvious problem. All of them were at least a few thousand feet in the air, and taking the bird down was not an option. Hold on to me, Nagato, said Naruto cheekily, and gripped his friend's hand. Why do I get the feeling I won't like T.H.I.? Akino and the Uzumaki children gasped in surprise and awe when both boys transformed into thick dark smoke. Amidst the dark night and the shining moon in the sky, this was a sight to behold. The smoke hastily circled around the bird one last time as if to confirm their safety, before descending towards the ground at breathtaking speed. She had never seen something like this. It was clear that it was similar to Shunshin. Naruto was quite secretive when it came to his dark powers. It was a given that he was stronger than her and Nagato. But to think he could perform a Shunshin at such height and distance along with a passenger. Although she couldn't help but smirk on imagining Nagato's reaction to this little joy ride. Nagato gracelessly sprawled across the wet ground and not a moment later vomited the contents of his stomach on the muddy piece of land. He glared at the boy beside him, who was watching this humiliation with a bemused smile on his face. What the fuck was that? Asked Nagato with little coughs. Tell you what, if we survive this I may just tell you all about this technique, hinted Naruto. If? Hissed Nagato, earning a small chuckle from his crazy best friend. Watch my back, Nagato, said Naruto calmly, as the other boy came up behind him. As if I have a choice, mumbled Nagato, but took out his weapon regardless and started scanning his surroundings. He realized that Naruto had transported them right into the town, but instead of being met with the faces of terrified civilians, they were greeted with a bizarre sight. The entire town was deserted. No sign of life existed, yet Nagato could feel the faint sources of energy loitering in the shadows. I count 90, said Naruto challengingly. What do we do about the ones present on the mountain? Asked Nagato seriously. If my guess is right, then we have to reach them. If we are to become a part of AIM, then we need to do it legally with the permission of its ruler. Sneaking into the country like spies and hiding won't work for long, whispered Naruto, making Nagato double back in shock. You purposefully brought us here? Asked Nagato in shock. Naruto had the grace to look a little ashamed as he lowered his head. Nagato felt a silent rage build inside of him. While he trusted Naruto with his life, his friend's secretive nature and habit of concealing nearly everything even from his best friends was getting on Nagato's nerves. This isn't a town, is it? Said Nagato tiredly. No, it is a frontier of AIM. Home to a small garrison force. I have received information that Hanzo was inspecting such frontiers that AIM shares with Konoha and Suna, now that war is inevitable between the two great villages, confessed Naruto hesitantly. Nagato's head snapped towards the mountains as a horrible feeling started developing in his gut. This wasn't some accidental encounter, but a planned battle his friend had chosen that to against Hanzo and his men. If we survive this, Naruto, then we're gonna have more than a few words, promised Nagato murderously, as he took up position behind Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto was grateful that his friend hadn't asked as to where he got such information. Kisame had insisted that the information was correct, and Hanzo would never allow the Uzumaki to become a part of his village unless he saw firsthand their power in battle as well as their skills in different ninja arts. It was this reason that Naruto had came here alongside Nagato. His friend was skilled at ninjutsu and fuinjutsu and was a capable warrior. Hanzo must have already sensed Akino's summon in the air. And she was a medic, he couldn't afford to risk her life so recklessly. Nor could he trust her not to throw a rage fit on learning the truth behind this encounter. In that matter, Nagato was at least mature enough to hold his temper for now and focus on the more important task. Naruto knew this was a great risk, and if things went wrong then he would make sure Nagato and his people escaped safely. But deep down in his heart, he knew this was the only way. If he had explained this feeling to his friends then he doubted they would have even believed him, much less come here. But Naruto was already running out of options. And in his mind, this was the only way. He would deal with the consequences later. As the figures emerged from the shadows, Nagato shuddered, not because of the sheer number of ninjas surrounding them but from something sinister being born. Looking back, he choked back a gasp on seeing something that would terrorize him for several nights. Waves upon waves of pure dark chakra was floating around Naruto like flames emerging from fire. A lengthy dark cloak made up of that sinister energy was covering Naruto's back. But the thing that scared Nagato were those eyes. For Naruto's one pure blue-colored eyes were now blood-red and slit in shape, giving him the appearance of a humanoid fox-like creature. Dark whisker marks covered the cheeks of his friend as the boy's teeth started turning more sharper in shape, just like those of a fox. The feeling of misery, death, murder, and most of all pain and sadness weighed on all of them. Is this the power of the dark side? Thought Nagato fearfully, as Naruto pointed his finger towards the now shivering AIM ninjas. I'll try not to kill you. In the faraway mountains, a few miles away from the border town of AIM, stood two people. Their eyes observing the decisive battle about to take place in their homeland. It was a historic moment for them, as it could probably mark AIM's entry into the Third Great Ninja War. Yet this upcoming battle was extremely crucial for AIM's survival. One of the people was a tall, bald man. He was wearing a traditional gray-colored samurai armor, and a fine sword was strapped to his waist. He was fair in complexion and had a wavy mustache. There was a deep scar running from his left eye to the center of the cheek. His dark orbs were momentarily widened as the surge of sinister energy washed across him. Beside him stood a tall young woman. She was wearing a short skirt and light blue-colored t-shirt, which was covered by a dark black-colored armor with the symbol of a mysterious clan no one in AIM had a clue about except for its leader. The woman had long, beautiful blonde hair that reached deep up to her waist. Her silvery eyes were also fixed on the town as a small smirk arrived on her face. Interesting, whispered the woman. The force is unbelievably strong in this child, said the bald man, making the woman frown a little. Mifune, how many times must I tell you that it is called chakra? You samurai never learn, do you? Asked the woman irritatedly, as the man named Mifune faintly smiled. Come now, Galatea. What difference the terms make when the meaning is the same? Humans should respect each other and their cultures, advised Mifune. Fine. But you owe me an explanation as to where you got the information that such shady people were going to infiltrate our nation, said Galatea flatly, and sighed when Mifune remained stoic. The samurai was a little worried when he saw the slight fear in his partner's eyes. Galatea was one of the best censors in the entire world. Apart from that, she also had a unique power that only her apprentice had mastered to an extent. He knew if Galatea truly wanted to stop this battle, then there was nothing anybody could do to stop her. But there were much more larger games at play, and the fact that even Galatea seemed a little shaken went to show that their opponent was truly a dangerous one. Galatea. Mifune froze. The hoarse voice still managed to make him tremble sometimes. The sound of footsteps were heard behind them, and both warriors turned around only to bow before the man in front of them. Salamander Hanzo. The revolutionary leader stood before them. Wearing nothing but plain blue pants and a gray-colored shirt, covered by a small flak jacket, and with a dark blue cloak floating behind him, it was hard to imagine that the leader of AIM had such modest tastes. Hanzo's face was covered by a breathing mask. His long, dirty blonde hair were flowing in the air as his hard, dark eyes observed his top commanders. Mifune still felt grateful for having found such a visionary leader. Hanzo not only reformed the crumbling AIM, but also presented a path to peace for the tired samurai. His people had not easily yielded to Hanzo, and only after a bloody war did the samurai ally themselves with Hanzo only because of the vision this man had. A true peaceful world. The fact that Hanzo forbid his ninjas from ever taking assassination or murder missions, and only restricted his warriors to undertaking the jobs of protecting merchants, villages from bandits, and other noble jobs. It surely reduced AIM's income, but the samurai were more than ready to make up for the losses by supplying this nation with their resources and monetary power. It was a long-standing myth in the ninja world that AIM had annexed the samurai nation, wherein the truth was the complete opposite. Both nations were working together to accomplish their joint mission and would not tolerate anything or anyone disrupting it. As such, when they had received information from a mysterious source that a shady group of people would be attempting to infiltrate AIM had rang alarm bells across both nations. Hanzo had decided to crush these miscreants with the intention of showing that unlike the past two great ninja wars, this time either AIM or the samurai nation would tolerate the tyranny of the great nations and its shinobi. Galatea felt Hanzo's firm gaze resting on her, waiting for answer. There are about 60 of them, mostly children. But they are staying far away from the battle. I can sense a kunoichi keeping those children safe on top of a flying creature high up in the sky, reported Galatea, her eyes still closed. What about the ones in the town? Asked Mifune seriously, even as Hanzo simply took in the information. There are 2 of them. One of them is strong, probably a Chunin-level ninja. Both are males, said Galatea hesitantly. And the other? The one whose power is radiating across our lands? Asked Hanzo seriously, making the female ninja flinch a little. I have never felt anything like this, Hanzo-sama, replied Galatea hesitantly. Speak freely, Galatea, instructed Hanzo calmly, not even affected by this monstrous power. AIM's leader was the epitome picture of a collected person who was simply watching the events unfold before him with patience. The other boy is corrupted. He is too strong with the dark side of chakra. I fear he may be very skilled in using the dark arts, reported Galatea. Hanzo didn't give any reply, which made his followers look at him quizzically. A strange gleam was visible in the leader's eyes as he felt this dark aura grow stronger and stronger with every passing second. We live in interesting times, said Hanzo bemusedly. Sir? Asked Galatea, uncertain of what her leader wanted. You're right, Galatea. This ninja is strong with the dark side, but I don't feel his intent to kill or wreak havoc. It is as if he is inviting us to watch this battle, suggested Hanzo, making Mifune stare at him in shock. Then you mean? Yes, Mifune. The anonymous tip sent to you was no coincidence. There are several different ways to get inside our lands without any notice, but these people chose to confront us. Either they are stupid or have a plan. I have a feeling as to who these people could be, said Hanzo pointedly. Who? Asked Galatea curiously, and saw her leader's gaze harden. The Uzumaki. Mifune and Galatea looked at each other in shock. Either of them were aware of this fact. Yet as they looked at their leader, the knowing look in his veteran eyes was enough to show that Hanzo knew more than he was letting on. It was a fact that Hanzo had traveled a lot across the world before returning to his nation to bring forward a revolution. There were so many things this man had seen, done and experienced that were far too difficult for any of his followers to understand. What do you intend to do about them, Hanzo-sama? Asked Mifune briefly. It seems the rumors about this clan's strength were not false after all, if they have such a dangerous ninja in their ranks, said Hanzo honestly. Hanzo-sama, then, said Galatea hopefully, a small smile arriving on her face, but it was soon squashed as a harsh look appeared in her leader's eyes. There must be something extraordinary about these people and this boy if they managed to survive so many hardships. If these people manage to get past my best soldiers and reach towards this mountain, then I will at least acknowledge their valor and agree to hear their request on equal ground, informed Hanzo. But if they can't even reach here without my mercy or without overcoming my soldiers with their own powers, then they have no right to make any demands of me or this great nation. Everything will be decided if they manage to reach here or fall in battle. With those harsh words, Aim's leader walked away, leaving two stunned commanders behind. Mifune, what should we do? Asked Galatea uncertainly, and saw her partner sigh. We have no choice but to follow Hanzo's will, informed Mifune. But because of this there will be unnecessary bloodshed on both sides, hinted Galatea sadly, and saw her partner stare at the town. Hanzo may be demanding these Uzumaki prove their worth for themselves and their right to survive through battle. If that's the case, then how relentless Hanzo's spirit is. He doesn't even allow his enemies to have half-hearted sense of values or victory, thought Mifune proudly, as he turned towards his worried female partner. Then we can only hope these Uzumaki quickly reach here without causing too much bloodshed. Although I doubt they can actually get past Angel, said Mifune confidently, earning a brief smile from Galatea as she thought about her apprentice. I hope so. But what if this boy manages to reach here? Asked Galatea seriously, and saw a determined look arriving in the samurai's eyes as he stared at his long sword. If that happens and they try to harm Hanzo, then we'll protect him with our lives, promised Mifune, earning a firm nod from the female beside him. Understood. Naruto relished the fearful looks the Aim ninja had in their eyes. Unknown to his enemies, this fear and despair was only giving him even more power against them. The only reason Kisame had matched his power because the man had no fear in him and had more experience as a ninja. Naruto was sure that given a few years of experience, there would hardly be more than a handful ninja who could truly stand up to him as an equal. Although, he could have done without feeling Nagato's fear. He glanced at his friend with his red eyes, which only made the boy flinch, but a moment later Nagato steeled himself and gave a nod. Naruto smirked. From every direction, hundreds of kunai, shuriken, exploding tags were hurled towards them. What made these incoming projectiles even more deadlier was that they were being driven by pure chakra, thereby doubling their travel speed. In response, Naruto grinned and clasped his right hand. The entire attack was destroyed as the weapons, instead of hitting their targets, struck each other and were obliterated. Even Nagato smirked on seeing the gobsmacked looks on the Aim ninjas' faces. Although that smile vanished from Nagato's face when he saw Naruto snarled disappointedly. It was a known fact that Naruto was far more vengeful and destructive when his dark powers was being openly used. And watching his dangerous friend take a few steps forward only seemed to increase Nagato's worry. The next attack came very soon as Nagato spotted several umbrellas being thrown in the air. Pathetic, whispered Naruto. Before the umbrellas could even open up fully, they crumbled and turned to dust. Naruto lowered his raised hand and glared at the nervous Aim ninja. The fact that his eyes were appearing demonic red didn't seem to reduce the tension at all. Is that the best you can do? Asked Naruto impatiently. A few angry snarls were heard as a group of 5 young Aim ninjas charged at the dark ninja. The approaching shinobi didn't seem more than simple chunin, yet Nagato flinched on seeing the stone-cold look in Naruto's eyes. His friend didn't even care that these people were nowhere near his power. I will never forget my people's pain, said Naruto darkly, pointing his hand towards the approaching angry shinobi. Dajuryojin, dark illusions. Naruto felt himself entering the minds of these teenage warriors. He could feel their raw anger at him for invading their country and insulting them so openly. He latched himself to that anger and started planting images in these vulnerable ninjas' mind. Not a few seconds later, the rest of the Aim ninja were horrified when their 5 comrades simply stopped. The 5 Aim ninja knelt before Naruto and on Naruto's command pointed their swords towards their own shocked countrymen. Nagato was as stunned as the rest of the Aim ninjas. What are you? Whispered a young teenage Aim chunin, her eyes wide with fear. Naruto answered that question by unleashing his puppet Aim ninjas on their former comrades. Nagato could only stare in horror, as the Aim forces desperately tried to stop their turned comrades without outright killing them. All the while, Naruto simply stood in his spot with a disinterested look in his dark eyes. Kill them if you want, Nagato. I don't care, said Naruto carelessly. You don't mean that, replied Nagato shakily. Akino had warned him about the repercussions of Naruto using his dark powers to this extent. But only now he could see the drastic changes this power was bringing in his friend. It was as if Naruto was becoming someone else, something else. Nagato tried to understand what was happening. He carefully watched the twisted smile on Naruto's lips, the gleam in his slit eyes as he watched the chaos he had caused. It was just for a moment, but Nagato saw it. The madness, the bloodlust, the rage, the twisted look, Nagato had read about it to be seen in one very specific beast. The Kyuubi. Kushina had been a Jinchuriki of that malicious fox, and Naruto had indirectly gained his powers from that ancient beast. It seemed that its power was not the only thing Naruto gained, but he also absorbed a small part of that hateful beast in his soul, which was brought forward only when Naruto used his powers to such an extent. Nagato's thought process was disrupted when several painful screams rang across the entire town. Nearly 40 AIM ninjas were hanging in the air, men and women who didn't even appear to have completed their teenage years. They were desperately grasping at their throats. Nagato looked down and saw Naruto standing beneath these suffering people with a sick smile on his lips. Humans like you don't deserve to live, said Naruto maliciously. Nagato yelled in horror when Naruto was about to clench his fist, which would break these struggling ninjas' necks. Killing AIM ninja was never their intention, but it seemed Naruto was not able to control himself. Before Nagato could intervene, the victims collapsed on the ground and started gasping for air. Even Naruto seemed surprised, and turned to look at his equally surprised friend. Nagato, what happened? Asked Naruto confusedly. The dark ninja frowned when his friend's eyes were not fixed on him, but instead at something in the sky. Turning around, the dark ninja froze in his spot. Standing high in the sky stood a ninja the likes of which he had never seen before. The very first thing he noticed were the two large yet elegant wings made of paper that allowed the kunoichi to hover above him. She was wearing the uniform of an AIM ninja, but unlike most of the ninja on the ground, she was wearing a jounin vest. Naruto's breath got hitched in his throat as he looked at her face. She was extremely fair in complexion and had a sharp feminine face. Her shoulder-length straight blue hair was slowly flowing in the cold weather. The white flower in her hair only made her more beautiful. Yet what truly mesmerized Naruto was the determined look in her amber-colored eyes. The fire that burned in those eyes was intoxicating, summoning him like a moth to flame. Just one look in them was enough to show that this was a person equally strong in their beliefs and determined to go to any lengths to protect what was dear to them. Almost every AIM ninja sighed in relief and started chanting the name Angel. Even Nagato was stunned. Not by the girl herself, but from the endless number of paper shuriken she had summoned in the sky. She had actually blocked the moon itself from casting its light. This ends here, warned the girl. Nagato felt two great surges of power. One of them was calm and peaceful, the other chaotic and twisted. He didn't miss the cold look in Angel's eyes or the twisted gleam in Naruto's orbs. Time seemed to have stopped for every soul in the area when the two made their move. The Angel started coming down at Naruto with frightening speed, along with her army of paper weapons, giving her the appearance of a mighty spear falling from the heavens. In return, Naruto transformed into thick dark smoke which instantly took the appearance of a dark human skull. And then he charged,